The question is that this motion be agreed to. I call the honourable member for Braddon.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I thank the member for bringing this motion to the Parliament today, to this chamber to debate. And the motion is obviously calling on a change so that we have palm oil being labelled on our products, noting that labelling is currently misleading, that palm oil contains 50% of saturated fats, which is dangerous to consumers with heart and other conditions, and the environmental damage and loss of habitat for threatened species. The United Nations Environment Programme identified that palm plantations are a primary cause of deforestation of rainforests and loss of habitat, which is a grave threat to the orangutan. And such transformation of land has led to increases in greenhouse gas emissions and threats to biodiversity. We know that palm oil is the most produced and traded oil. We know it employs about 6 million people globally and has been a key factor in moving many communities out of poverty. We've seen a rapid rate of growth in Southeast Asia and Malaysia and Indonesia, producing around 85% of the world's palm oil. Supporting labelling that informs people of what they're eating and where food comes from is a policy that Labor supports. It's important for health reasons that people know what type of oils they are eating. As we know, palm oil has high levels of saturated fats, which is a cause of cardiovascular disease, and contains palmitic acid, which is a chief constituent of palm oil that affects insulin and leptin regulating of glucose and appetite. Consumers at the moment cannot identify what type of oil they are consuming because they are genetically listed on labelling. So to understand what is on a written label, and I guess to support this motion, it's important for people to have a high level of health literacy to make an informed choice, particularly if health is a key driver of consumer choice. And so I think it's very critical that whilst we are looking at changing labelling, we need to place a bit more emphasis on preventative health to educate people on such matters. The environmental issues are of great concern to the industry through consumer choice. Through consumer choice and pressure placed on multinational manufacturers, they should be demanding a more sustainable source of palm oil. But what this motion does not highlight is that there are significant labour issues within this industry of child labour, low wages, abuse of migrant labour from countries such as Nepal, Philippines and Bangladesh, debt bondage, labour trafficking, and tens of thousands, if not more, stateless children of parents working in the plantations, and violations to human rights. Yet this industry provides significant economic support for communities in Malaysia and Indonesia, employing around 3.5 million people, so much so that has been a driver of people coming out of poverty. But much has been done to address these issues, and what has been mentioned is the Roundtable Sustainable Palm Oil certification system that assists in identifying palm oil that's been sustainably harvested, and also work in the area around labour with the Free and Fair Labour and Palm Oil Production Principles and Implementation Guidance released to inform the minimum standards for plantations. What has previously been mentioned by other speakers is the Blewett report, and I think that highlighted the need for much broader labelling around oils and sugars. And I think it's very prudent that recommendation 12 out of that review that the Ministerial Forum will be looking at the end of this month is actually supported, and I do hope that that is the case. But the previous attempts for private members' bills looking at changeling of labelling to address palm oil have failed. And they have failed because they've looked outside the process, which is where the states and territories are the bodies that are responsible for the regulation and enforcement of food labelling. They've failed on a number of reasons around the cost to business, and in fact it's quite ironic that the Abbott opposition at the time didn't support or actually supported the bill, which would have cost Australian businesses $150 million to implement the changes. And not only that, there's our obligations under the World Trade Organisation, so we need to be very mindful of what we do with that. But the regulatory system in place with the states and territories is a way forward, and I do hope that those ministers meeting at the end of the month do support recommendation 12. But will that change deforestation? Probably not. Will it lead to better health outcomes? Maybe so. I think the key message, though, is that this government has not put a lot of emphasis on health prevention, and that is something that if you do not have a high level of health literacy, it doesn't matter what labelling is there, that we need to ensure that there is those programs funded to those that have poor health outcomes, do have a higher level of health literacy and do gain out of
The member's time has expired.